Good morning. My name is Ramakrishna Aduri. Under the employability skills work, what we are expecting to do, today I want to talk about group discussion and decoding that. Group discussion is a very common feature what you see when you go for your employment trials. And the first and foremost point is you must be a good listener. Okay, it's not how much you speak. If you listen very carefully and your attention gives you valid points from your fellow participants, you can hear the arguments from your other participants, and that tells you how you perceive things. So in group discussion, what is essential is they see your perception level, how good you can understand things and your grasp. And therefore listening is very, very important. And if there is a very valid point from the other participants, you must acknowledge. You must tell them that that's really a good point, and this shows your leadership quality. So when you acknowledge, when you say that, validate a point and say that this is a good point, when you appreciate others, it's a good leadership quality, and that's really important. And the next one, when you present your point of view, you use simple language, but there must be clarity in that. And people are watching your communication skills in a group discussion, how simple you can put your ideas across, makes, sense there. So your communication skills are being watched. Therefore, any idea that you have, put it across in a simple language, but it needs clarity also. And when you structure your thoughts, when you have some idea, when you're presenting it, when you structure your thoughts, make sure that there's some logic, some reasoning there. So this talks about the critical thinking skills you have. And when you organize your thoughts, there must be good flow and present them logically, and they can see the analytical ability you have, and the critical thinking skills also are, being watched there. And learn to respect people, because you have to listen to them and seek some permission. And sometimes the discussion can turn pretty hostile. There is nothing wrong in that, but still you can respect the people, seek permission to talk. You may be at odds with the other participants, doesn't matter. It can be pretty hostile debate, but mind you, any discussion, make sure that you maintain your cool and respect your people. And when you respect the people, I understand that you have open-mindedness. And when you are talking about certain things, you focus on your facts and figures, and this tells me about the authenticity of your general knowledge. Okay, unless if your figures are not right, if you don't try to manipulate the figures, and your facts and figures, you must watch them when you are presenting them, because anybody can negate your ideas. So the authenticity of your general knowledge is being watched there. Next one is the analytical presentation of arguments. So when you are presenting your arguments very analytically, I understand your problem solving skills. So I understand how you address a problem, the remedial action for the point you are discussing. And seek an opportunity. This is very important actually. When someone is speaking, and don't try to interrupt them, but when you need to speak, when you have to make a point, seek an opportunity to speak up. And this tells me about your social skills. Okay. And next one is, when you present your arguments, make sure that there is some content in that. You can't be rhetorical. Just rhetorical, you have to argue, therefore you are arguing, doesn't make any sense. And therefore, when you are making your arguments, make sure that there is some serious content there and there are some valid points there. And for practicing for this group discussion, it is always good if you read and write several times on critical aspects of some topics. If you read and write several times, that shows that you have got a 360 degrees approach, a roundabout approach. So you can approach the problem from different perspectives and provide a solution for that. So I see that 360 degrees approach only when in that condition. When you are speaking up, I see your language. I'm very critical about it. I see the choice of the words, they must be appropriate. I see the sentence construction, they must be epigrammatic, this sentence construction. I see the syntax of language. Syntax means the rules you are following, grammar rules and all that. See how much of command you have got on the syntax of language. That is another point I am watching. And any topic that you are given there, I just look at the compendious knowledge of the subject. So the depth of the knowledge of these subjects, a variety of subjects is being watched. And second thing is, your communication must be succinct. Don't use so many words and all that which is not required. You can't be verbose and all that, superfluous. Make sure that your speech is succinct. So it's all about your English language. I am also watching that, the communication skills. And therefore, when you are participating in a group discussion, there are several things being watched. It's not just your communication, your critical thinking, your problem solving, your social skills, and your analytical skills, your reasoning, your general knowledge, and all these are being observed. And therefore, it is essential for you to understand that you must be a good participant. Okay, and therefore, the last point I want to tell you, you must read and write a lot on a variety of topics so that you can be an effective participant in the group discussion. Let me now move on to jam sessions. Okay, it's just a minute. Okay, in that 1 minute, how best you can present an idea, that is very, very important. And in a jam session, in that 1 minute, you are given a topic sometime before, but we look at your perception level. Okay, and the perception level means how good you can understand the topic. Think of this topic and look at from different perspectives, and your understanding ability is something that is very important. And whether you have understood the topic right or not, that is what I mean by the perception level. And when you are presenting your idea, I see your general awareness. General awareness means how much of knowledge you have got pertaining to that topic. So the general awareness is being watched in a jam session. The next one is, there are two things here. You have some knowledge, everyone has got, but you also must have some experience. So people want you to connect your knowledge and experience. When you are presenting your ideas in that 1 minute, how good you can connect the basic knowledge you have got with some experience. So normally you cite an example, and when you cite an example, I understand that you can well connect your knowledge and experience. So this is being watched there. The next one is, I also see your language, the complexity in your sentence structure, how appropriate your words are chosen, your diction. And see, when you construct a sentence which is rather complex, it tells me that, oh, there is some idea in here, like. And so your ability to ideate is being watched in a jam session. Okay, and your problem solving skills, like in group discussion, even a jam session also tells you that whether you can propose a good solution for a problem. Okay, how beautifully you can address that, we can see. And we see the right attitude. Okay, this is, this reflects in your jam session. In that 1 minute time, I see that whether you have your right attitude for a particular idea or not. And when you are giving, there is a flow of ideas, how good you can organize your thoughts, it is important. And when you can organize your thoughts and present, I understand that you got good managerial skills. So organizing the thought flow and presenting them, like 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. And this talks about your managerial skills and how meticulously you can plan and how, flawlessly you can execute the things and all. Next one is, when you can think very critically about a problem, you can present your conclusion well. At the end of a minute, you are giving a solution and that the conclusion you have arrived at or the inference you have drawn, it is so important, and that is going to tell you how matured your thinking is all about. Okay, and suppose sometimes you see in that 1 minute it is just an informative speech. There's a lot of information that you have to dump there, but remember that it tells your ability to set your priorities right. Okay, there is a lot of information you have processed, and processing the information is a very important skill for anybody. And you have processed your information, you are presenting the information, setting your priorities right. And this is another thing that can be watched in that 1 minute's time. And you should check your time very carefully, like in that 60 seconds time, how many seconds you want to give for the introduction, how many seconds you want to elaborate that idea, and how many seconds you are earmarking for that conclusion. And your time management skills are being watched when you present your idea for that 1 minute. What is the breakup there? Think of the ideal breakup and make sure that don't come, at the end you can't say that I'm running short of time, therefore I must be in a hurry and all that. So you propose less number of ideas, but make sure that your time is managed very well. And now I move on to another important thing I normally see there actually. Interview. Many people, they are worried about the interview. Okay, and the word itself says it is knowing each other. So don't think that you are always at the receiving end. They ask you questions, you have to answer them. It's not necessary that you also can ask them some questions. So it is knowing each other. Because like whatever you have on the paper is good if you can see them face to face and talk to each other and understand each other, the scope of that job or whatsoever. And the first one is, when you attend an interview, it broadly takes care of your domain knowledge. How much of knowledge you have pertaining to the job you are going to take up. Okay, so your knowledge about the scope of the job is very important. Therefore, it is always good if you can do some homework to understand the nature of the job and your knowledge which supports it. So don't think that they ask questions, only general questions. It can be very seriously about the domain knowledge. And given a problem, suppose they tell you a situation to imagine, they may ask you, how do you address this problem? And one answer can give the problem solving skills you've got. Okay, and this is another method of knowing how good you are, how cool you can be when you encounter a problem. And the next one is, when you are given a question, understand how quickly you can think, because this is very, very important. This is a 21st century skill, critical thinking. And therefore, how do you think actually, because this is going to dominate the kind of person they are going to employ. So critical thinking skills all the time are very, very important. And therefore, when a question is given, make sure that you think very critically about it and give a solution, of course, which can remediate that problem there. And you are being watched. The question sometimes, and many times, it can be a simple question, but how good you are answering that, it also tells you broadly about your communication skills. A mellow voice, a soft voice will do. You need not raise the voice, because there are very few people sitting in front of you. They see that how comfortable you are with the language, number one. And the second thing is how cool you are. Okay, you are not tensed up, you are very comfortable, you are speaking to them at a low voice which is just audible, and you have understood the question, you got good listening skills. So the communication skills part is being watched when you attend an interview. The next one is very important actually, the perspectives, and perspective is, what kind of impression you have on certain things. Okay, in an interview, I strongly tell you that your honesty and integrity have got a bigger role. And here, honestly, you can form an idea. You can tell them, this is what I feel about it. So your impression is very, very important. I call them perspectives actually, how you are looking at the things. Okay, and sometimes it is a decision making. how quickly you can take a decision. You can't be indecisive. You can't take so much of time for taking decisions and all that. So decision making skills are also being observed there. And therefore, when you are asked a question where some decision has to be taken, and if you should have your own logic for that, but you answer very quickly, and that tells that you can take a decision, a good decision, a bold decision, maybe a right decision. And many times I see in interviews, particularly for the key positions, there are some questions asked, okay, and those questions can trouble you, like it is how you handle the stressful situations. In all the key positions, this is important. See, you have a particular case where they want to put some stress there, and the question can be very irritating, and sometimes you get annoyed when they ask the question, but mind you, you must maintain your cool. So once you enter the job, there are occasions where you have a lot of work pressure. You have to, you have to be sometimes, taking up so many tasks. It should be multitasking responsibility, and sometimes you have to take the decisions if they're key positions. It's not all the times you take the orders from someone else. It is sometimes you have to take decisions, make sure that your team does the work. You can be a team leader, and when you are playing a key position there, you should be able to handle the stress with all your right temper and all that. And I tell you, like, you can't fake in any interview. Your integrity is something that is valued so much. So in some cases, I have seen in some interviews, they ask a question, please tell us the objectives you have written. Okay, this is a very critical question. So don't try to write the objectives written by someone else. So if you can't remember the objective you have written, there is no point, because it's your career goal, and therefore your career objective you should remember. You can't just write it, you customize it. Even when you see that from someone else CV, and it is imperative for you to write your own career objective, and you should remember it, because you have got so much to do with that. And don't try to bluff if you haven't read that well. Okay, in some cases I see when you write that you like the music, probably they can ask you in which raga you have the national song Vande Mataram sung. You can't just say that you are interested in music and all that. And for your information, Vande Mataram is in Desh Rag, Hindustani Rag. So you should understand that the basic points when you write something there. If you say that you like reading the books, probably they can ask you what are the last 2 books you have read and what's the price of those books. So you can't write there that you like the books without having an iota of idea about the books which normally people read. And therefore, whatever you have written in your resume, it is so important for you. You go through it a number of times, and each and every one. And in one interview, it so happened that he has written that his strength is hard work. Everybody knows that it can be a good strength, but the interviewer, he was telling that, how do you say that hard work is a strength? He said it's a weakness. If you are working hard, probably you don't have confidence of doing that, and you are taking so much of time, you are sweating to do it, and therefore he says that hard work is a weakness. And sometimes they check whatever you have said, they deny the facts. But you still can be cool and give some justification the way you have looked at that and all. Don't get confused immediately. Don't try to change the idea. Let me add a few questions here asked in interviews, which are rather embarrassing for a candidate. Okay, and there was a question like, you want to work for an organization of repute, and what would be the condition post your entry? After you joining the company, what would happen to it? What happens to the reputation? This is a very embarrassing one. I remember a question asked by a journalist when Rajiv Gandhi became the Prime Minister. The journalist asked him, your mother's government, she used to say that it's a government that works. How do you describe your government? He said very quickly, I say it works faster. So we need such answers which are rather, they calm down the atmosphere there, and very comfortable you are in answering the question and all that, like a quick repartee. And there is one question: there are 5 spelling mistakes in your resume, and did no one ever tell you? Okay, this is a question to make, puzzle the candidate there. And he said, I used my spell checker. I wasn't sure about it. I didn't check, sorry, but I used my spell checker. So such answers, they attract the interviewer very much, like. And there is one question: you are giving your introduction so fast. Did you memorize by rote? He said, this is my introduction, and therefore I know very thoroughly what has to be said and all. Okay, and there are questions which sometimes put you in a very piquant condition, like you are telling your name in your introduction. Do you think we have invited you without knowing your name, like and this can be a question like, why were you retrenched? They should have asked you, why did you leave the last job? But instead they use some words which can be can perplex you, like, why were you retrenched from the last job? And are you feeling tensed? You are talking so fast and all that. And if you talk slowly also, they can say that, why are you talking so slowly? Are you taking time to cook up the answers and all that? Are you trying to manipulate the answers? And if you talk so much about you, it's called bragging. You must be very, very carefully, like you have presented all the points in your resume. Don't try to repeat that. You're reiterating all those details once again can mar your chances. So don't try to boast of something and it is known to them, like so if you keep on talking about you so much what is not required, probably your chances will become bleak. Okay, so don't overdo things there, like and don't try to impress them that you are perfect, because people can make mistakes, and people need not be perfect there. But only thing is, if you can learn from your mistakes and if you can move ahead, and that's enough actually, like. And don't try to say that even your academic career is perfect. It's not necessary, like sometimes in some subjects you can get less marks. What's wrong in that? Okay, and you may be very good in some subjects, and you can't show them marks which are really fascinating for them. Even they don't appreciate that. When you are getting good marks in all the subjects, there is another remark: the question paper is not challenging, and therefore don't try to tell them that you are always 90 plus and all that. Like, it's not required actually. They don't believe it. Okay, and some details which are not relevant, you need not emphasize there. If it's not, say for example, when you are appearing for a job, you don't tell them that you are an NCC certificate holder there, you participated in the Republic Day parade, a C certificate. These things may not interest them. Okay, if it's not relevant for that job. Probably it can show you that you are a healthy individual and nothing more than that. And if you have written that you like reading books, it is good, in fact, you have a hold on at least a couple of books and a couple of authors. And without these basic details, like what kind of books you read and the genre and all that, there's no point in saying that you like books. So think of 1 or 2 authors. Think of 1 or 2 books they have written very recently, and also remember, you should be able to justify why you like such stuff. Okay, and music is a very dangerous game. As I suggested a little earlier, there can be question from any corner. Don't say that you have got hold on music, because even if you have to talk about the various genre, it is very difficult to get a hold on that. Okay, and always when you go for an interview, think of your strengths and take advantage of them, and your weaknesses also, and in a subtle way you can say that certain things can be your weakness. You can say that I am very keen about the quality, that becomes a weakness sometimes. So you can tell a strong point as your weakness sometimes, probably it can receive some appreciation from them. Like, there was a question in an interview. The candidate was asked, in case there is some pending work, you may have to stay back. Then he said, yes, I don't mind. Then they said, if you are having pending work, it does mean that you are not ready, your planning was not done well, and you can't complete the work on time and all. So the way they interpret your answer sometimes may not be, in your favor. And therefore your answers must be checked time and again, and there is a very interesting question sometimes. Your qualifications are so diverse. Are they just ornamental? You see, one candidate has done his plus 2 level qualification with life sciences, and graduation he did in commerce, and later he moved to management, and in addition to that he has got some qualification in philosophy or psychology. And this is not going to get the appreciation of people. Sometimes they may say that all these diverse qualifications you have got are just ornamental. And really it happened, a candidate was asked a question, what do you like? Do you want the depth in a particular subject? You want to go very deep in a particular subject, or you want only the peripheral knowledge in several subjects? Because this is a tough question. Whatever be your answer, you should justify it. That is even more tougher, So sometimes if your qualifications are so diverse, when you are switching from one area discipline to another discipline, good, in fact, you can expect a question on them. Okay, and I want to tell all of you something. You need those people who pinpoint your flaws, not those who appreciate you all the time. You need those people who question your ineptitude. Okay, they should say that you can't do it. Okay, your inability, your inefficiency, incompetencies, and they should question. You need those people all the time around you who challenge your competencies. And you need those people, sometimes they can ridicule your grit. And you need those people around you who can create a killer instinct, a ruthless determination, and a merciless resolve. Have people around you. And you need a good guide. You need someone, of course, who just guides you in the right direction. You need a model to emulate, somebody who can be your role model. And let me tell you honestly one thing, you don't need motivational speeches. If you can't motivate yourself, if you are not you don't depend on the self-motivation, it's good you can stay back. You need not appear all these interviews for the key positions. You must be a self-motivator. And sometimes a demotivational speech, someone who is challenging you, it can deliver success. Let me do that. I challenge, I dare, and I provoke you. I declare that you fail miserably. I summon you into the battlefield. You disambiguate and prove me wrong. You're going to get a good job. But mind you, your domain knowledge, your communication skills, and your right attitude probably will put you in an excellent position. There is no depth for jobs. There is only depth for employability skills. Hope you acquire them. And with all these points in mind, I hope you can get an excellent job, and the group discussions and jam sessions and interview, and wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.